Hey, I don't know if you saw it or not. If you didn't, you're going to have to go back and look at that other video that I did where I was sketching in New York City with Ian Fennelly. And in there, that was video 1 of 2, the one that I was sketching just down the street from where my youngest son was actually born. It's amazing that he actually picked that site. Now, this video is going to be in 2 parts. The first part, I'm going to compare and contrast his style with my style, the artist and the architect's type of style. And then on the second half, I'm going to re-sketch that whole scene again while using some of the techniques I saw Ian use. Now, it's good to be able to walk in someone else's shoes, to be able to understand kind of what they're thinking. And that's my thought about doing it again as if I was Ian, just to kind of see what he's feeling as an artist instead of me as an architect. And maybe I can learn something along the way that I can share with you. Let's give it a try. I hope you watched the video where I actually did these sketches, and you'll find that I started off with a pen and ink without really laying it out with the Tombow very light gray lines as Ian does. And then what he does is then he'll go back over it with a very fine pen and just block out things, not anywhere in the detail of what you're seeing in my sketch over here. And then when I put the watercolor on it, I'm pretty literal. I have brown brick where there's brown brick. I have red awnings where there's red awnings. I've got green growies right there near the sidewalk where it is in the actuality. I've done some detailed sketching of actually the big light post with all of its curly cues at this stage. But when Ian went to this same phase, you can kind of see his pen and ink, just little rectangles for windows. And then he's got the watercolor just giving overall hues. Not a whole lot of definition except for where he uses some of the blue and some of the red along the edges of the buildings. Other than that, it's just a wash. And he doesn't really care about what color the building really is. For example, on the left side of this chisel building, he is painting it red where it isn't red. He's painting it yellow on the right side of the chisel where it's really brown. He doesn't even have very much of the green, in fact, no green, except for where the blue and the yellow kind of mixed together at the bottom of the chisel, which was probably just kind of happenstance. It's not really to show growies as I meticulously showed on mine. So he is so more loose when he does his paintings than I am, and I really admire that. And then comparing his mid-stage watercolor to mine, you can see again how loose Ian's is and how just very abstract his pen and ink is, where I'm already putting mullions and windows, and I'm putting chairs, and I'm putting trees, and I'm putting all kinds of detail at this stage where he isn't. I like doing it this way when I have more of a defined lines, and I'm basically, it's treating this like an adult watercoloring book. Whereas Ian, he is allowing his watercolor to define a little bit more before his pen and ink does, which is also a wonderful technique. Ian has a website called Urban Sketch Course where he posts workshops like this one, and I've taken a few of those and I really got a lot out of them. I'd recommend you check it out too. I'll leave the link down below. While I was finishing up my watercolor, Ian walked by me and we had a little chat, and he kind of brought up something that I just couldn't believe I didn't see it myself. Here, you listen. Okay, here we go. I'm more literal than you are, whereas You know,
Literal is in the eyes of the beholder.
yeah, I know, I
That's what
know.
you're measuring it against.
But
That is gorgeous.
I do like how
So
what you're
nice.
doing is you've got the splayed out. But you can see here it's still straight. I need to work more on that. I want to get it to have that more loose.
That
Yeah.
line there,
Yeah.
that line needs to come much further.
Yeah, give it more yes, I agree. Yeah. Yep. Yep. And by golly, Ian was right. I missed that angle, the chisel. That's why he selected this intersection, this scene is particularly because of this chisel. And I'm treating it kind of like a cereal box. It's on its side. It's a chisel. So that's the incentive I had to redo this sketch using the techniques that I saw Ian do. Now let's sketch it one more time using some things, some techniques that we learned from Ian when he was sketching his, and kind of using some of the things that I just brought up while comparing his sketch to my first sketch. That, you know, it was like this, but I think I can even do better than that. Let's give it a try. The sketch pad that I used when I was out in New York City was this one right here. And it's by a company by the name of Artist Loft. It already has some watermarks down here because of the hot summer days. I'm carrying it in our backpack, which is kind of cool. I love it when it's got that rough texture to it. And this right here is a mixed media. And I really like it because I can use it for watercolor. I can use it for pen and ink. We're not going to do color pencil on this episode, but I could use it with this mixed media pad. And this one's a 98-pound paper, which is pretty substantial. It has just a little bit of texture on it. I was holding on to, or actually Ian handed to me his pad, and his pad is bigger than this. It's a little bigger, and opening it up and feeling the pages, it's a little bit smoother than this. This is a little rougher than what he uses. And because of that, I got another pad just to practice with and also to kind of test my hand with the second half of the video. This one is an illustration pad. It's a little heavier than this other one of 98. This one's 100-pound paper, and it's really, really smooth texture. So the pen and ink will just kind of glide across there. One thing that Ian had mentioned with the watercolor paper, which is not what I'm using the mixed media and illustration, but with the watercolor paper, it's got a lot of bumps on there. And it adds a really interesting texture for watercolor, no doubt. But if you're going to put pen and ink to the paper, it can really wreck your pens really quick. And it also doesn't allow for your pen to kind of flow like I want to do in our sketches right here in this video. So the second half of this video, I'm actually going to use this illustrator and try to be a little bit closer to the technique and paper that Ian used in New York City that day I was with him. All right, so what Ian starts off with is a Tombow felt tip brush. It's a felt brush. It's a fine line, he uses a fine point here. And he typically just holds the end really loosely. So let's give that a try. Try to walk in his shoes holding the pen even the way he does it, which quite frankly is kind of uncomfortable for me. I'm not used to that. One thing that I didn't do when I did it originally is I didn't have the dramatic angle as he did during the first sketch of this right here, of this big chisel. And I wanted to put that into play here. And then he's got the kind of an exaggerated, see how it's splayed out like that? I had it kind of stretched out more and it was more vertical. He really plays with the splay there. And if you don't really understand why, I didn't for a while, I actually asked him why he did that in an interview that I recorded, and I'll leave a link down below where you can see where that recording is and where that interview is, because I learned a lot interviewing him to find out why he does certain things that he does when he's sketching. Here's that light post, and try not to be too literal right now. Just want to get the overall lay of the land. And he's got this light fixture. Then he's got this. Over here where my pen is now, that's where my son was born. Way back when he was born, the buildings that are there now are condos. But obviously, well, you may not know, he wasn't born in a cabin, so he was in New York City. So he was born in a hospital, just like most of us are in big cities here. And he was born in a hospital that was right there. And now that hospital's not there any longer. He's not that old. He's in this, but still things change. And this building here now is a condo. I am an architect, and one of my clients is a developer in New York City. I have several clients that are developers. You may have heard of one. He was a president of the United States at one time. But this one here was a family who made up a development company, and they bought that property where the hospital was and redeveloped it into a condo. The next step is putting the color onto the paper. And sometimes when you want to put the color on, you may have to lean it up a little bit so it'll kind of drop a little bit. Right now we're going to use a little bit of wet on wet, and I'm going to start with the yellow. I wasn't watching him closely on what order he did, and we can find out actually pretty well looking at the New York City workshop that he's putting out onto the internet. I don't know, in his website called Urban Sketch Course. I encourage you to try those out. You'll learn a lot. It's really a great experience. We're going to put a little bit of that over here. And he uses colors kind of simply. He does mix some colors sometimes, and you'll see that I'll do that here too. And I really admire that about how he keeps it simple. He doesn't overcomplicate things. Doesn't overcomplicate things at all. Used to, I'd worry about, I've got to get in between the lines, I've got to highlight this. Nah, we don't need to do that. Especially when we're working on a masterpiece similar to what Mr. Ian Fennelly did. All right, we're going to match some of the techniques that he did and see. Now I just got myself some new pens. It's a /1, /3, and /5. Fine line, and they're all waterproof. And I'm excited to use those in this sketch here. I try not to be too thin on this of a pens, but I do like how I can do a little bit of detail to it. So let's use one or two, or maybe all three of these in this sketch. So now we're going into the field of unknown. What unusual mess we have with just colors and splots, but we're going to make something of this. And I'm going to use a .01 pen. It's a really thin pen. And with that, I'll just make some outlines real quick, just to kind of define what this picture is going to be of. And with this, I want to give it a little bit of definition. And we'll put some windows in here, and we're going to put a little bit of a corner. Here's our chisel edge. That's very important. And with that, we're going to make our windows right here. Yep. I'm trying to be as loose as I possibly can. A little bit more loose than I am actually comfortable being. But that's part of this exercise, is stay loose. Let the magic happen on its own. His is a lot more expressive, as this kind of is. It's just indication of spaces, not as literal. And I'm really working at not going back and being too heavy-handed with my pen and ink, yet I would love to kind of tighten it up and be able to give it a lot more definition, but that's not what I'm seeing that Ian did. I'm seeing that he was a lot more loose, and that's what I'm trying to do. Just keeping it loose. It's just the feeling of which I see in this scene, and what I guess he did too. He had a little bit of a similar view of this scene, trying to just do simple allotments of colors without a lot of forced use of lines, allowing for just the colors to kind of give it some suggestion of what's going on in this scene. Brings a little bit of the feeling I recall having when I was on that site, without, it's actually looking at it with just kind of a blurry vision, because it's not as sharp, not as heavy-handed as I'm used to doing. But you know, this is using the inspiration that I got from Ian. So there you have it. This is my interpretation of a quick watercolor sketch of the same corner. It is using a lot more skewed, angled lines, a lot less lines than I did on mine. I'm not worried about the number of windows as you had seen on my other sketch. And you know, it's a different feel. It's a different feel, and quite frankly, I kind of sense it not being complete. But I'm going to leave it as this, because that's kind of the loose flair that we were going after. And let me know what you think about this type of technique. Give it a try. Take a picture of it and send it to me by email at urbansketchpad@gmail.com. And leave your comments down below. Let me know if you have had some experiences with a looser sketch than what maybe you're more comfortable with, and how you felt doing that too. Until next time, I'll see you on the next episode.